Welcome back to Echo Ridge, where we have a special treat today. We have 4 colonies to take a look at, except they're all on the exact same seed. For those of you who are not aware, on our Discord, there's a group of players called the Chaos Crew, and every couple of months or so, we re-roll a new seed, and everybody plays that same seed. Now, this isn't a competition, but rather a way to compare building styles, to discuss the map, strategize, and generally just make this single-player game a little bit more multiplayer. So for those of you wondering, the Chaos Crew Playalong this time, we're playing on the flipped asteroid start, and I figured this would be a good time to actually discuss coordinates themselves because I don't think I've ever gone over them. Inside of coordinates, there's a bunch of letters and numbers. Well, they all mean different things. And if you highlight over the coordinates, you can see exactly what they mean. The first section is just identifying what the asteroid is. The second longer string of numbers is the actual seed or the randomization for that playthrough. The third set is the difficulty in custom settings. And then the final set, which were just added recently, has to do with the story traits. But after taking a look at these colonies, if you wanted to give it an attempt yourself, here are the coordinates, and I'll also make sure I include them in the description of the video. And just in case you're not familiar with how you use those coordinates once you have them, by say copying them from the video description below, you just come to choose your destination screen, make sure you're on either classic or spaced out depending on the type of playthrough, select this, paste in the new coordinates, and then hit enter. And once you do, the correct asteroid with the correct seed and settings will automatically appear. Additionally, another way to do this, let's hypothetically say you didn't want to play with these same story traits, you can then go click off whatever story traits you didn't want to play. And notice that the coordinates change a little bit. If you went down to the game settings and started messing with some of the difficulty settings, it too would adjust the coordinates. But this world seed always stays the same, because this is just the number that controls the randomization of how that asteroid is built. You could go back into game settings and just paste the individual world gen seed here and then hit enter, and the only thing it would adjust is the seed itself, not your difficulty settings and not your story traits. But in the descriptions of my videos, I always post the full coordinates, so all you'd have to do, once again, is just paste them into this box, hit enter, and then start game. And without further ado, our first colony, Echo Chaos Crew 2-0. Except when GallantGabby sent this one in, the save file was called Before Stupidity, and I think I know why. Apparently, we started having some issues with the sulfur geyser, and then just a little bit of sulfur managed to escape into the wonderful area around here. Except they'd already dropped the magma, so now all this sulfur is just a tad warm. Absolutely love it. The last time I played the flipped asteroid, this too happened to me. Except in my case, I think it was a naphtha liquid lock that I ended up overheating. I don't remember. Either way, it's always a good time when you have to vacuum out all this mess. And to be honest, I think the only thing that happened is the geyser was actually cooled too much. And once it did, it caused the steam to condense into water, and a bunch of the sulfur in here ended up solidifying. But truth be told, I'm not 100% sure. Gabby plays with a lot of mods. For instance, here on the second planetoid, there was a bunch of these 2x3 tiles, and all this is the airlock mod from the Steam Workshop. But when I loaded in without the airlock mod, it just shows that it was all the metals. There was also some over here, but we had a trap dupe, and I didn't feel right just recording the entire episode with a dupe that was going to be trapped into this wonderful dirty brick here. So I removed them and just put a manual airlock that no one can pass through now. Because as usual, dupe safety is our #1 priority here on Echo Ridge Gaming. I just wanted to make sure I gave you the heads up so when you do see these randomly around the colony, that's what they are. Now, something I really liked about Gabby's style of play. The flipped asteroid itself was the home colony, but as you can see, there are only 4 dupes left here. Everybody else? Well, they moved over to Floralin. Floralin was the transporter-connected planetoid, and that is where Gabby ended up putting their rocket program, which I think is a kind of a nice touch. Now, the crown gem that Gabby wanted to show us was this wonderful industrial sauna. This is actually Gabby's first industrial sauna, and it is a beauty. We have 5 steam turbines, a pair of metal refineries, a rock crusher, a glass forge, and a wonderful geothermal spike. And this geothermal spike is just powered by a massive amount of magma. Whenever the sauna falls below 149 degrees, this door shuts and starts transferring in all that wonderful heat. It looks like Gabby had plans of putting a stable in here, although I am not sure what kind, as the critter drop-off was never set. And then on the second planetoid, there's even a more massive sauna installation. This one is very unique, as I've never seen anything quite like this. It's sort of two connected saunas, both with their own sort of setup. One side is a dirty brick that also has an oil well and some coal generators, petroleum generators, and natural gas generators. And then if you go down, there's a sort of pathway that not only leads to an oil refinery, but also another sauna. And this sauna is actually being cooled from the inside of the sauna. In another beautiful implementation, we have a double liquid lock area filled with hydrogen where the 4 steam turbines are that's keeping this whole thing cool. I thought this was a very creative use of space. I also love Gabby's intention of keeping all the abyssalite. It helps to make it look like the colony was built with the planetoid in mind. Oh, this? Oh, don't worry about this. It's just 400 kilos worth of hydrogen pressure. It really makes me want to open this door, just for the funsies. Also on the second planetoid is the main apartment complex, where each one of these rooms is a wonderful luxury barracks. It looks like we also have a wonderful recreation room being planned, and the colony is capped off with 3 beautiful rockets. The rocket interiors are absolutely beautiful. I love these sort of packed up, using every single tile sort of rockets, especially when there's care taken to add a bunch of paintings and statues. This is the Gemini, this is the Kalpana, and this was the Sputnik. Now, despite it being only cycle 678, Gabby had colonized more than just those 2 planetoids. Here on Gorgani, it looks like we had a beginning of a complex, perhaps with the aim of one day feeding the hermit. We also had work done here on Topiera, complete with a small living area that had access to a wonderful saltwater geyser, and it looks like they were in the process of grabbing this chlorine gas vent, or maybe sealing it off, because we all know they're useless. Okay, maybe not completely useless, but I still don't like them. So all in all, I'd say that's pretty impressive for only 678 cycles. So thank you, Gabby, for sending in your colony. Now here's the exciting thing about this episode. We get to look at a second, a third, and a fourth colony built with the same seed, but by a different set of hands. This one is called the Happy Paradise, submitted by Thyghostridder. And already you can see one stark difference is they have cored out the entire magma biome and just avoided using the liquid sulfur geyser altogether. Now the question is, where did they put all that magma? It looks like it was all dropped into these bottle emptiers, which then passes through here, drops down here, where, oh my goodness, that's a lot of magma. Each one of these tiles is what, 5 million kilos? I don't even know the real way to say that. 5 kilotons? This is definitely one creative way to store all your magma. Except, wouldn't it be a shame if one of these tiles randomly got destroyed? That would be bad, huh? Also on the home planetoid is a wonderful looking apartment area. I was also very happy to see that even though I don't own the Sunshine prints, or these wonderful pastel polka prints, or even the bouncy castle bed, I was still able to load them in and they appear just fine. Also on this colony is a wonderful Pacu farm. The main tank has 300 Pacu, and it looks like the breeder tank is set to keep 3 Pacu. One unique difference about this setup that I really like is whenever the critter sensor detects that there's not enough Pacu, this door opens and this door locks, so that this fry egg, once it's hatched, will then bounce this way into the breeder tank instead into the food farm. Very creative implementation. Now, while this colony does have 1.5 million calories worth of cooked seafood, it also has a bunch of barbecue, thanks in part to a wonderful Draco farm and glossy Draco farm. The glossies live mostly in hydrogen, other than where the mealwoods are growing that they're eating, and the regular Dracos are living in both a hydrogen and a chlorine environment, and they're eating balm lilies. And each one of those stables has an interesting implementation that I wanted to share. This critter sensor is waiting to detect when there's over 8 critters or eggs. It's only then that these auto sweepers are allowed to sweep into this conveyor loader. And it's the same thing over here with the glossies. I love how all these dupes are slowly coring out the rest of the abyssalite, but leaving a nice little 2 thickness wall that separates the rest of the colony. As a special note, it looks like the Queen and Leofar were made as honorary guests here in this planetoid. Here on the second planetoid, you can see that Ghostrider has a certain style to their play. Once again, coring out the entire bottom area and leaving a nice little thick wall of abyssalite. Incidentally, on the second planetoid, they also have another use of the infinite liquid storage, this time polluted water. Yes, Ghostrider is not afraid to rock out with their soggy Rodriguez's out. Here we have 781 kilos worth of hydrogen being fed to 3 hydrogen generators that are being used as sort of a backup power system because they're only set from 65 to 40. No, the main power system is by use of petroleum generators. And there is a steady stream of petroleum coming in, all being supplied by a wonderful petroleum boiler. That is once again storing in an absolute insane amount of liquid here inside the manual airlocks. The second planetoid also has a nice little apartment complex and their own Draco and Glossy Draco farms as well. Alright, this is where I draw the line. Why are we storing so much excess chlorine? Ghostrider had started their colonization efforts on outside planetoids. This one looks like it was renamed Ach-Tawani? I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to know what that is, but unfortunately I don't. And here on this third planetoid, they look like they were in the process of providing some wonderful storage for the cool slush geyser. And then there's a fourth planetoid here that is absolutely gorgeous. First, look at the amount of gold amalgam and cobalt ore in these giant boulders. But if that wasn't enough, we have 3 metal volcanoes. A cobalt volcano, an aluminum volcano, and a gold volcano, all centrally located close enough to where they can be tamed in one sauna. And apparently that wasn't enough because we also have a copper volcano on this planetoid. 4 metal volcanoes, all different on one planetoid. This planetoid also has a hydrogen vent, a natural gas geyser, and a hot polluted oxygen vent. The duplicants on this colony are eating some wonderful cooked seafood, being supplied by another Pacu farm, and they also have nice living arrangements, complete with a personal gym. And all that only took Ghostrider 1200 cycles. So thanks again to Ghostrider for sending in their Chaos Crew Playalong. Well done. Our third planetoid is an absolute gem just to look at from a zoomed out position. This one is called the Kentucky Fried Playalong. And I'm sure you may have already guessed, it was submitted by community member Colonel Sanders. There is a lot to unpack here, because as you can see, we're going up in cycles still, and this one's reached almost cycle 1900, and has been capped off by a wonderful monument with a glossy Draco head. Looks like someone else got the bouncy castles. How come I can't get the bouncy castle too? The first thing I wanted to take a look at is the fact that Colonel Sanders has the Somnium synthesizer running full blast. As you can see, we have 6 wonderful comfy beds, all with a bunch of dream journals sitting next to them, and each one of the duplicants are wearing their little jammy jams. And I just realized the duplicants down here doing this are sleepy, snoozy, drowsy, dozy, dopey, and dreamy. Oh, that is wonderful. And that is all of these duplicants' lives. They wake up, they go to the bathroom, they grab something to eat, and then they just sort of wait to go back to bed? Because sleepy, snoozy, dozy, drowsy, dreamy, and dopey aren't allowed outside this door. Oh look, it's bedtime again. And that's because Colonel Sanders has a wonderful schedule for them called the Sleeper Agents, where they have 2 tiles of downtime, 1 tile of bath time, and then the rest is nothing but sleep. And because of that, every duplicate in this colony has the maximum aptitude buff, where they're getting +5 to athletics, strength, science, piloting, machinery, and a -25% to stress. Okay, now I'm just straight mad. When am I going to be able to get Mush Bar Prince? I need Mush Bar Prince. No kitchen and mess hall is complete without Mush Bar Prince. Now on this colony, they're eating a smorgasbord of barbecue, grub fruit preserve, berry sludge, surf and turf, and a smattering of other foods. We have Sweetles down here, we have Grubs, we have Drecos, even some wonderful pips. Not to mention a Pacu plank that's sitting right on top of the wonderful Draco shearing and starvation chamber. The colony also has a dirty brick and a power brick. Now one thing I was curious about is we have 9 coal generators. And this is something I haven't done in a long time, is rely on just coal generation for power. But the old method of just producing a bunch of hatches and using those hatches to feed a bunch of coal generators is really underutilized and underappreciated these days. So powerful. My question is, where are they getting all the coal? It looks like every once in a while they're dropping off some more coal here, but there are no hatches on this planetoid, at least that I can tell. There are hatches on the second planetoid, but it looks like they are feeding their own colony's coal generators. Oh wow. Look at all these wonderful buffer tanks. What an absolute beautiful sight. All storing a bunch of polluted water, and it's sitting in chlorine, so it's nice and clean. This second planetoid also has a major volcano tamer here. I suppose all that coal could be coming around from the star map, because here's a carbon asteroid field that has 79% coal. That's a lot of coal. And if you're wondering how Colonel Sanders was able to make the map look like this, well, on the main colony we have a wonderful liquid O2 and liquid hydrogen setup, and it looks like they're supplying 3 hydrogen rockets. The space program also has a Radbolt engine, a mission control station, an interplanetary launcher with diamond press setup, and all that radiation is being sourced by a bunch of Weesports. I really do like this setup, and transportation to the spaceport is done easily by some wonderful transit tubes. So we've seen the first and second planetoids, but there's a few more to take a look at. First, Blazano, that is storing an absolute boatload of salt water here in these wonderful buffer tanks. We also have a wonderful battery bank that's being used to store the power being supplied by the solar panels. And the great thing is we're taking all that water and launching it via an interplanetary launcher, and it's being fed its radiation through a wonderful crash satellite, and all of it's going back to the main planetoid. Colonel Sanders was able to get over to the water planet and put down the mini-pod. They also did the same at the temporal tear opener planet, and it looks like their next trip was going to be coming over to Smeriola, because they started sending a bunch of interplanetary payloads here with a bunch of obsidian and more obsidian. I guess they just wanted to send obsidian, but this was that planetoid with all those metal volcanoes as well. Rayano also has a mini-pod, and it looks like they came here for the single purpose of grabbing the terrestrial artifact. In fact, it looks like that's the reason they came to all of these planetoids. Even the one that still kicks off all the meteors, as its artifact is mysteriously missing. Now they made it to the tree planet, but they left the artifacts here. Yes, Colonel Sanders was also at the magma planet with all the niobium. And because you can't stop with just one left, they also came to the gassy Moo planet and grabbed the artifacts from here. And why do I mention all that? Because Colonel Sanders completed cosmic archaeology, where they got the 10 terrestrial artifacts and 10 space artifacts. Well, absolute bang-up job by Colonel Sanders, and thank you again for submitting the colony. Expertly done. This last one was submitted by our very own Queen Kalero. And are you ready for this? 3,000 cycles. This is more cycles in one colony than I've even ever played. So I think I'm definitely going to have to step my game up here on the max difficulty and achievement run and get into at least the 3,000 cycles. But as you can see, the Queen played this map for 211 hours. And the Queen also uses the airlock systems, because when we loaded up, apparently Ellie was going right through the middle of one. So let's try to help Ellie out, shall we? Seriously, anybody, somebody come help Ellie. Yeah, Ellie might not make it. There are only 8 duplicates left on this planetoid. Way to go, Joshua. Way to pitch in. We also have a trapped Herald who's sitting on a ladder holding their balloon. Let's go ahead and help them out as well, shall we? And just in case, we'll put a manual airlock here. Otherwise, we're going to be destroying this wonderfully carbonated brick. And chilly. It is minus 20 degrees in here. Minus 30 in some parts, thanks to the anti-entropy thermal nullifier. And the Queen is using that temp to naturally grow some wonderful sleet wheat and to keep all of the batteries cool. The Queen has a nice little system here that as soon as they exit here with their suits, if they do have any polluted water coming out of their suits, it all gets siphoned up by this mini liquid pump and brought right over to the bathroom system. Okay, now I'm really mad. I didn't even know there was cafe prints. I want the cafe prints more than I want the mush bar prints. Come on, Clay, help us out here. Unlock the prints. I mean, Devin gets the prints. Why doesn't Echo get the prints? And the Queen is also using the sleep machine. As you can see, a lot of these dupes are in their jammy jams and creating dream journals. I love it. Every dupe in the colony stays in their jammy jams. And whenever they have a new dream journal, it just gets manually dropped off. That's definitely one way to do it. Now, they do get the -8 to athletics because they're wearing their pajamas, but they're getting a +5 right back for the maximum aptitude. Plus, who doesn't love being in an Atmos suit with their PJs on? Now, if I remember correctly, the Queen was playing with Natural Tile Mod, and that way they could go in and fill in a lot of the gaps they made by digging out of the flipped asteroid. This was probably very important considering how late they brought the colony, because the more tiles you can fill in with just any old tile, not to mention wonderful abyssalite, the better your computer and the frames it's able to supply is served. Now, the Queen also did not start their rocketry program here on the first planetoid. Instead, the rocketry program started here on the second planetoid. It is complete with a wonderful little industrial sauna that is being heated by a wonderful major volcano that we've seen before. And all of that wonderful igneous rock is going all the way through the sauna into a debris chiller and then gets dumped right here. This colony is also complete with a petroleum system being supplied by some slicksters and some oil wells. Oh, and this was smart because this whole area is all sharing temps. This oil well is never going to get to the point where it's going to overheat and cause the steam. One of the common problems with the oil well solution, because we normally pack it in with insulated tiles. And apparently the Queen is also a fan of the door storage. That is a whole lot of petroleum and a whole lot of polluted water. Now this second planetoid also has a wonderful unearthed chlorine gas vent. I've never seen this, but this entire top area is just flooded with chlorine. And in it, we're growing a bunch of pinch of pepper plants that absolutely love the chlorine bath because remember, they thrive in 35 to 85 degree temps, and the chlorine gas vent erupts at 60 degrees. I also love the use of the window tiles above the solar panels. To me, it serves two purposes. One, it gives the dupes a platform to run across that's raised from the solar panels while also still allowing all that light to come through, but also I just think it looks pretty cool. Now, despite having all that wonderful petroleum, the Queen went with Radbolt rockets on this planetoid. They have an interplanetary launching system here as well as a diamond press as well. And the radiation is all coming from this wonderful crash satellite. Great use of the environment. Now, I'm not sure if this was a errant interplanetary launcher system gone wrong, or if the Queen planned on colonizing this one day. Because here in Hydralin, there are a lot of interplanetary payloads, mostly filled with lead. I found some algae over here. Yeah, from what I can see, they're all algae and lead. I'd love to know what the Queen was planning here. But regardless, seeing all the little interplanetary payloads sitting on top of the planetoid always makes me giggle. But there were extra planetoids that the Queen did colonize. For instance, here on Growato, where they made excellent use of a chlorine gas vent again. I've never really thought about doing it this way. Maybe there is use for a chlorine gas vent. No, let's not get crazy. And as you can see, the Queen was packing in more of this planetoid, this time with mafic rock, and growing a bunch of wonderful nosh sprouts. The duplicates on this planetoid were eating berry sludge, spicy tofu, and barbecue. We have a bunch of balm lilies here with more use of the chlorine, some naturally planted arbor trees, and even some wild puffs. As some of you know, I have something against the puffs, but if I were ever to use them, this is what I did. I sort of put them in their own little natural habitat and then just forget them, because they'll lay the puff princes and the squeaky puffs all on their own, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, despite this planetoid being in the far reaches of space, it's pretty well colonized, complete with its own apartment system, and oh my goodness, where do I get payphone? I'm gonna have to find out what the expanded painting mod is because that is an absolute wonderful piece of art. It's a payphone. Now, as I was saying before my giddiness interrupted me, we have a nice little apartment system here. All the dupes have their own bathrooms and their own suit setups as well. The Queen's also showing off their wonderful cafe prints again. And I just realized, look at all the hidden buffer tanks. And they're all storing chlorine. Why, Queen? Why? What are you doing with all this chlorine? Apparently the intention is to feed the puffs forever. And I literally mean 14 million cycles. Because not only are they in a chlorine gas vent environment, but they're also being fed all the chlorine from this gas vent. And another wonderful use of environment, putting all the composts here right next to the chlorine gas vent helps keep all the heat being caused by the compost sort of stifled. Well, it also helps that there's a saltwater geyser here because the Queen is geotuning it with all the bleach stone being created by their puffs, so it outputs a whopping 3 kilos per second. And then all of it is being chilled by a monstrous cooling loop made out of supercoolant. Really love the work done on this planetoid. Absolute incredible use of space. Next up, we have Scorchelin, which you know as the Niobium planet. The Queen was here long enough to set up to some solar panels with some wonderful smart batteries, drop off a mini pod, probably grab some nice niobium, and then bug out. And then there's Snowina, the crown jewel of the Queen's playthrough. because as you can see, they were able to open the temporal tear, and there's currently a rocket getting ready to go through it named the Uranus Lander. Well played, Queen. Well played. Now, I know Snowina looks like a hot mess right now, and that's because that's sort of what happens after this temporal tear opener goes off. A bunch of meteors coming crash down on the planetoid, and it's sort of the only use for this place, except the Queen said, no, hold my tea, because I'm going to tame not 1, 2, 3, but 4 iron volcanoes. This is 4 iron volcanoes in one industrial sauna. Now, I've been to this planetoid before, and it is a dumpster fire to begin with. And the fact that the Queen was able to build all this infrastructure and tame 4 iron volcanoes is truly a worthy achievement. Not to mention, as the Queen says in their email, this is the first time they've ever opened the temporal tear. So hats off and well done, the Uranus Lander. So there you have it. 4 colonies, all in the same seed. An absolute treat to see how different people conquer the same map. If you're interested in joining the next Chaos Crew Play-Along, head on over to our Discord. We have a special channel set up for it, where there's always an ongoing playthrough. They'll last for a couple months, at the end of which, you're invited to submit your colony to potentially appear in the next Chaos Crew Play-Along video. And I believe the current seed that they are all working on is only a couple weeks old, so you still have plenty of time to jump in and join the chaos. A special thanks again to Gabby, Thyghostridder, Colonel Sanders, and the Queen for their colony submissions and allowing us to take a look at their work. So until next time, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.